The flags of the 14 nations taking part in the 1987 Camel Trophy fly from the vehicles that will be home to the intrepid adventurers from 4 continents who are to take on the majesty of Madagascar. The 28 men taking part in the adventure of a lifetime have already been through an exhausting selection procedure, followed by an intensive program of training. And that's before they even arrived here in Diego Suarez, in the north of the world's 4th biggest island, first staging post in their quest to traverse Madagascar from north to south. There's time for last-minute adjustments to be made as everyone eagerly awaits the off, including Americans Don Floyd and Tom Collins.
Tom, you finally made it to Madagascar. What are your impressions so far?
Well, I think it's the people in Madagascar are very nice. They seem to be a very happy people. It's pretty warm here. It's going to take just a little bit to get used to that, but I think it'll be nice here.
Don, the last time you drove one of these Range Rovers was in England when it was snowing. A bit different here.
Yes, definitely. It's a little dry right now, but hopefully we'll get in some mud like at England, and maybe it'll be about the same.
Are you impressed by the vehicle, Tom?
Yes, I was real impressed with it in England. I thought it was one of the better 4-wheel drives I've driven. It's much better than the one I have at home. It seemed to be able to go anywhere.
What do you reckon on the other teams?
Oh, there's a lot of competition here. Everybody's real friendly. You know, like, well, we didn't see everybody drive, but I think it's going to be tough.
And that's just what it's supposed to be. No square inch of carrying space is wasted on these 4-wheeled beasts of burden. A massive crowd of 70,000 locals turned out to see the adventurers off on their 1,500-mile trek from one end of the country to the other. And it's an impressive sight as crews from Spain and the Canaries, Britain, Belgium and Holland, Brazil and the USA, from Malaysia and Japan, Germany, Switzerland, France, Turkey and Italy line up along with the 7 support vehicles. The entire province declared a national holiday in honour of the Camel Trophy's visit, and people lined the streets as the Range Rover turbo diesel convoy set out, full of anticipation for what was to lie ahead. In front of them, a 280-mile journey over the last asphalt roads they'd see in the next 18 days. From now on, it's off-road all the way. The winners of the Camel Trophy will be decided over 7 special tasks to be held at various points on the journey. They range from navigation and orientation exercises to a river recovery test, hill climbs and observed trials. But that's all in the future. First, there's the journey over the rolling Malagasy countryside. The real rough stuff will come later. Before that first special task, there's a well-earned rest for the teams, the last real let-up in the schedule, and a chance to soak up some of the local atmosphere. There's time for the Dutch team of Fons van Urs and Gerrit Dahmer to share a cup of coffee, and to have a long think about just what you've let yourself in for while waiting for the later arrivals. Early morning at Maromandia as the crews prepare for the first special task. They'll go in alphabetical order. That means Belgium first, followed by Brazil, the Canary Islands, France and the Netherlands. The going's tough, and the first crews are forced to use the winches to complete the task within the 4-minute time limit. Holland will prove to be the fastest of the winchers. The Belgian team of Philippe Cousin and Frank de Dobelier find the going painfully slow. while the Brazilians are forced to resort to brute strength. France, who won the 1986 Camel Trophy, haul their way to 12th place, but they're about to become the first victims of serious mechanical difficulties, breaking a Range Rover differential shortly after this special task. A brave blast through the glutinous mud by Canary Islanders Carlos Penco and Manuel Almeida. But it's all to no avail, and they too are forced to get out and winch their way to the finish. With conditions improving as the task progressed, the Germans proved to be the first to power their way through without having to resort to the winch. Franz Alt and Jürgen Kelber triumphant. Italy, with off-road rally specialist Vincenzo Tota at the wheel, were next. For the Japanese, it was a case of foot down and point forward. And it worked, much to the delight of Toshiharu Urabi. Malaysians Halim Abdul Rahman and Si Ying He made third fastest time, despite a few hair-raising moments. This is the Spanish team of Jamie Puig and Victor Muntan. They finished 5th best. Switzerland, that's Jean-Pierre Falsi and Daniel Nicolier. And Turkey. Metin Kap and Kazim Aya were slowest of the non-winchers in 9th. But with diesel turbo racing, it was the British team of George B and the oldest man in the event, Ian Chapman, who set the pace and grabbed the first special task win of the 1987 Camel Trophy. The USA were still to come, but they could only manage 4th fastest over the 100-metre course. For Britain then, maximum points, but their good fortune wasn't to stay with them. This was to be their first and last stage win. As the people of Madagascar celebrated 40 years of independence, the Camel Trophy trekkers forged deeper into the mountains and towards some of the most difficult terrain of the entire journey. In the first 3 days, the Camel Trophy train travelled over 400 miles. On day 4, it managed a mere 27. The tropical monsoons have only recently passed, and many trails are little more than rivers of liquid mud. Brazilians Gilberto Castro and Paulo Bergamaschi opt for the outside lane in their attempt to bypass a deep mud patch. Just inches from disaster, the South Americans are forced to rethink their strategy. But as always with the Camel Trophy, there's help near at hand. The British try the straightforward attack. And make it, blazing a trail for those to follow. Malaysia. Then the Canaries find the same tactics to their liking. And the Camel Trophy convoy assembles ready for its next challenge. At the tiny town of Ansoe, there's a stop to cool off after the exertions of the last few days. It's been a constant 35 degrees during the long and grueling days. And that's outside. In the cabs themselves, it's been well over 40 degrees. Time to refuel the hard-working Range Rovers as the town goes about its business. That's a sign for the local beer, a terrible temptation for the trekkers, but a clear head's essential for the Camel Trophy. They drive by night. But there's no more welcoming sight than the overnight camp just outside the town, where Graham Fazakali briefs the drivers on the vital importance of good maintenance.
Go around some of the suspension fixings and prop shaft fixings and all those sort of things. As I said before, if you take a lot of care now, it'll save a lot of trouble later on.
There's always midnight oil to be burned.
Sur le petit extérieur.
Sur le petit extérieur du 13. Du 14.
14. Je l'ai, c'est bon, impeccable.
17.
But the prospect of a fish feast afterwards makes it all worthwhile. This silver tube is home for the Camel Trophy adventurers for the duration of their stay on mysterious Madagascar, the island which was once part of mainland Africa, but broke away 1 million years ago. A clear and bright Madagascar dawn. And Camp Camel Trophy prepares to move on. The terrain is still very rough and progress is painfully slow. In these conditions, it's vitally important to make sure that every bit of equipment is securely lashed down. Excuse me, you Dutchman, you seem to have forgotten something. Never mind, the friendly Belgians have picked it up. Not that the Netherlanders even seem to have missed anything. But that spare wheel seems to have a mind of its own. It doesn't want to stay aboard the Belgian vehicle either. And it looks like they could do with an extra wheel. It's a case of send for the winch again. Gently does it. Every yard travelled is a hard-fought advance towards the ultimate goal. The Italians have been the most successful nation in the competition since it became truly international in 1982, winning in Papua New Guinea and in Brazil. Now they're attempting their third win with the impressive crew of Mauro Miele and Vincenzo Tota. Miele, a former World Championship motocross rider, and Tota, an off-road rally specialist. The second special task is to be a navigation trial, as organiser Chris Drew explains to some of the competitors.
If we have 14 ties for first place, that's what we're going to have, because we can't have a rally race. That's not what it is. It's an orientation thing. And 4 hours is the maximum, so you've got plenty of time. Oh, yeah.
Everywhere on the route, the villagers are anxious to see just what's going on, and they turn out in their thousands. The Spanish team of Victor Montan and Jamie Puig get underway. Teams have to navigate their way across country to a predetermined point within the 4-hour time limit. The organisers have measured the distance as 44 kilometres, and the team clocking nearest to that distance wins. At the finish, there were only 300 metres between the first 10 teams. And it was the Americans, Don Floyd and Tom Collins, who picked up the 100 points, clocking up exactly 44 kilometres. There was a tie for second place between Holland and Malaysia. But there was disaster for both France and Spain. The French pair of Jacques Leopold and Thierry Pacaud missed their destination and travelled 55 kilometres. And the Spaniards fared even worse after resetting their odometer back to 0, making it impossible to assess their performance. Nothing stops just because it's nightfall. The navigation exercise goes on well after dark. And there are still rivers to be crossed by the blazing lights of one of the British-built Land Rovers, driven by one of the backup crews. Progress is painfully slow, especially where the road consists of just 2 girders. The Malaysians are the guinea pigs this time. At other times there's nothing for it but to build your own bridge. First, chop down your tree. The Camel Trophy safari treks on through the grasslands of central Madagascar. Heading towards special task number 3. By local standards, this is a motorway. Ah, now we're back to normal. Some ditches just can't be negotiated straight off and have to be filled in with rocks first. Or traversed with the help of a portable steel ramp. Sometimes, though, there's nothing else for it, and the straightforward approach is the only answer, as the Malaysians demonstrate. The calm before the battle. It's everything out of the car while all is made ready for the third special test. This time it's an observed trial through a swampy stretch of land that's immediately christened the bog hole.
2, 1, go.
Canary Islanders Manuel Almeida and Carlos Penco are the unfortunate trailblazers. There's a 5-minute time limit, and the teams travelling the furthest will be judged the winners. It was to prove a very wet test for everyone. Germans Franz Alt and Jürgen Kelber demonstrate just how it should be done. They used the sand ladders almost like tank tracks until they ran out of time. A victory would boost them from 5th overall into the lead. But they were nearly defeated by the clever and resourceful Japanese, Toru Takahashi and Tashiharu Urabi. Now that flag at the bottom of the picture is the finishing line, and the Oriental duo have nearly made it. However, they reverse to get a better run at the last few yards, and while they're going backwards, the time runs out. Since they're measured from their position when time is called, that means they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and drop to 5th place. In an attempt to beat the clock, Spain try their luck with the trusty winch. That's even wetter than driving it. They too run out of time, but their efforts are rewarded with 2nd place. Then a sudden downpour makes things even worse, causing chaos for the later drivers. They'll try anything just to get through. All thoughts of a fast time are immediately put to the back of the mind. Brazil are the last to go, winching themselves out of the mire. Then it's off once more into the jungle of Madagascar, a land full of mystery and danger, where it's man and machine against the awesome power of nature. The Malaysians, in 5th overall after 3 special tasks, attempt a slippery river crossing. Sometimes even 4-wheel drive just isn't enough. And Halim Abdul Rahman and Si Ying Hee are forced to unleash the trusty winch once more. You've already seen some of the high-tech solutions to stream crossing in the shape of the do-it-yourself sections carried by the teams. Now, meet the low-tech solution. The Camel Trophy trekkers doubted whether any powered vehicle had ever been across this masterpiece of primitive wooden engineering. No one wanted to go first, so they sent the expedition leader. Made it. Extreme caution seems to be the order of the day as the Dutch take their turn. The convoy is nearing the end of the most difficult section of terrain on their entire journey. When they mapped out the course, the organisers dubbed this area the Death Zone. But there hasn't been one injury and all the vehicles are still going strong. Turkey's Kazim Aya and Metin Kap gingerly ford a river and line up for the man-made ramp to refuge. Is it a fish? Is it a submarine? No, it's Super Range Rover just getting on with the job. Though the tough Turks managed to drive out, others found the going tougher. The French, last year's winners but lying only 11th overall, make the laborious climb out of a valley. Veterans of the notorious Paris-Dakar Rally say the desert raid is a piece of cake compared to the difficulties of the Camel Trophy. If the rivers are too wide or too deep to drive through, there's always a bridge to be built. For some, that's an excuse to cool off in the water. But mostly, it's just more hard work. Crews scavenge the countryside for materials to help improvise yet another do-it-yourself crossing point. It's amazing what you can do with a few local timbers and a couple of prefabricated sections. Teamwork is all important, and everyone pitches in to lend a hand. The Turks are the first to inch their way over. At times like these, you just have to have faith in the bridge builders. After all, you were probably one of them.
Might be a bit high.
There's still more work to be done. Fine-tuning before the rest make it across.
We don't drop it. Do not drop it. Yes.
Very.
But eventually the job's done and everyone is safely through. As well as the 14 participating cars, there are 7 extra vehicles on the Camel Trophy, including the medical truck with Dr. Roland Collet in charge. This is definitely a case of doctor in trouble. With his Land Rover stuck fast, the good doctor needs a double winch to get free. One from the front and another sideways winch to prevent the vehicle tipping over. Another operation successfully performed. One more river to cross. This time it's the Japanese who are pioneers making the first crossing. Special Task 4 is another map reading and navigation exercise.
Nambo.
And the Dutch take the chance to study the route.
Dan gaat het erom of we deze weg moeten pakken en zo terug.
Meanwhile, the Spaniards have picked up their own mosquito clearing machine. It's a tame chameleon, and it's on the prowl. This time the teams have to negotiate their way around a swamp without using winches or ladders, all within a time limit of 2 hours. The Italians look confident and eventually tie for third place with Holland and the United Kingdom. The correct distance travelled for the test should have been 10.7 kilometres, and there's a tie for first place with both America and the Canary Islands only 150 metres adrift. The countryside is awesome in its magnificent splendour. Even in the rain, the beauty of Madagascar shines through. Our intrepid adventurers roll onwards over the green and verdant plains. On towards their next test of skill, speed and ingenuity. The hill climb.
Alright, the objective is to go up to this hill over there, and the arrival is on the left of this car. You will see a flag, and you don't have to stop, you can go through it, and they will take the time over there. Then in this time limit of 7 minutes will be ranked last.
How are you going to attempt this next one?
Well, what we thought we'd do is something different. We thought we'd start here and maybe just drive straight up the hill.
Well, we haven't got the full rules yet, so we'll have to nitpick over what's got to be done. As soon as we find out what's got to be done, we're away.
But you're enjoying it so far?
Yeah, oh, magic, magic. Yeah, really good. So it can only get better from what we've heard.
Beats the hell out of the office.
Yeah.
The British approach to the super steep climb. How are the Americans faring so far?
Pretty good. Not too bad.
Still feel good, but it doesn't mean a whole lot yet with 10 more tests to go. Things change fast with the first place always getting 100 points. So just have to see what happens.
Yep.
We've got a special test going on now, a hill climb. How are you going to attempt that?
Oh, I have no idea until I get there.
Pedal to the metal.
Yeah, that's just about it. I don't know what we're going to have to do exactly, but we'll feel it out.
Are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, it's great. I'm having a lot of fun. I like it, you know, lots of four-wheeling just like at home. And best camping trip I've ever been on.
It's great. It's beautiful country. It's fantastic.
The countryside may be beautiful, but the Americans find the hill climbing tough. They're the last of the finishers. This is how it should be done. The Swiss team of Jean-Pierre Falsi and Daniel Nicolier driving steadily up in second gear to a time 10 seconds faster than their nearest rivals, the Brazilians. 4 teams, the French, German, Spanish and Turkish pairs, all broke differentials during the hill climb and were forced to press on with only 2-wheel drive until spares could be flown in to meet the stricken drivers. For the first time in a week, the drivers are able to make some open road progress after 5 days when they averaged just 23 miles a day. In the overall lead are the Italians, who nevertheless have yet to win an individual special task. Mauro Miele and Vincenzo Tosa lead the Americans, Don Floyd and Tom Collins, with the Dutch team of Fons van Urs and Gerrit Dammer in third. It looks very much as if the Camel Trophy will be between these 3. But the trophy isn't the only award. There's also the Team Spirit Award, voted on by the drivers themselves. That goes to the team who've contributed most to the spirit of the event. As the teams approach the east coast, the rivers become too wide for even their bridge building skills to be of any help. The chance for a rare moment of rest as the leisurely pontoon ferry makes the crossing. Then it's back on the road again. The wide river crossings result in a delay of nearly 3 days, so the driving goes on late into the night in order to make up for lost time. There are delays caused by mechanical troubles too. The British teamsters Ian Chapman and George B lose a lot of time when their Range Rover breaks a gear linkage. While the rest of the convoy presses on, the Turks stay on with the maintenance truck to give assistance to the beleaguered Brits. But for the moment, the Britons press on, unaware of what the future holds for them. At night, tropical rainstorms make work all the more difficult, but during the days the temperature rarely drops beneath 35 degrees. During the monsoons, which ended only 2 weeks before the trophy train passed through, these trails are simply impassable. Yet another nighttime river crossing in an attempt to get the convoy back on schedule. They've already passed the 1,000-mile mark, and there's still some way to go. Ahead, 2 more special stages, and some of the most tricky terrain on the trip. They haven't yet waved goodbye to the hard going. The Camel Trophy dormitory at dawn, where the 14 teams grab a few hours of rest before the rigours of yet another long and tiring day. Time to talk over what lies in store and pore over the map. This time there's no ferry, so the Camel Trophy trekkers have no alternative but to find their own. The oil drums and timber that make up the QE2 of the Camel Trophy. The raft had to be brought from 5 miles upstream, so to get it to the crossing point, 30 natives were pressed into service to paddle it downstream. No vehicles had crossed the river here in 30 years. There's only room for a single car at a time.
Okay, come on. Straight.
The intrepid British are the first to try out the home-built ferry. Each crossing would take an hour and a half.
Wait here. George, come forward a little bit now.
And with 21 cars to get over the water, that's an awful long time.
Nice and steady. Nice and steady.
Home built or not, the ferry serves its purpose perfectly. And everyone makes the crossing safe and sound.
Good, let it go slow.
The Camel Trophy teams truck on towards Ampe on the east coast, venue for the 6th special test of the event. After taking so much trouble to cross rivers safely, the 14 Range Rovers are now stuck deliberately in one. The special task is to get out in the quickest possible time.
Go!
It's a Le Mans start for the test, which is being run in 2 halves with 7 teams each time. There are several different approaches to the problem. There's the dig and jack method, the rocket and see solution, the jack up the back approach, and the plain and simple drive it out and hope for the best. Some go for the sideways shift. But right from the outset, the Americans look in control. They've got the air of men who know just what they're doing. And there's good reason for that. They do. They've practiced this very exercise at home just in case. And their preparation pays off. They're the first past the finish post, while the rockers haven't moved an inch. For some, nothing goes right. The Canary Islanders finally get results. They're second in the heat, but nearly 7 minutes behind the victorious Americans. Excuse me, you seem to have lost that wheel again.
Hey? Yeah, well, the bloody shovels is going down and down.
The British are left in the drink. But they finally try winching out. Success at last. The start of Heat 2.
Subiendo, va.
Sube.
Ojo que se puede caer.
This time it's the Spaniards who look as if they know what they're about. But the Turks find themselves in all sorts of trouble. Using exactly the same method as the Americans, the Spaniards are second, but nearly 4 minutes behind their transatlantic rivals. Belgium's Philippe Poussin and Frank de Dobbelier are second in the heat and take third place on the test. Now this is not the recommended approach. In fact, it's a bit of a drag. The Turkish team run out of time and are placed last, and they're still trying to finish as Dutch teamster Gerrit Dammer takes the opportunity to cool off. With the Americans now back in the lead overall, it's straight on to special task number 7, the final water negotiation test, only 100 yards from the previous stage. The Dutch are the first through and approach it cautiously. But the all-action Italians are going for bust right from the start. The test comprises 2 water crossings with a steep climb out, and Miele and Tota have rightly assumed it'll get more difficult for the later arrivals. The Japanese adopt the same tactics. They'll set second fastest time. But then the trouble starts. The Brazilians are among those who have to winch out. They still manage a respectable time, fastest of the winchers and 6th fastest overall. But for those who follow, the conditions get worse and worse. America finish 8th and see their lead disappear. So for the 3rd time in 6 years, the Italians win the Camel Trophy. The Americans take 2nd place and the Dutch finish in 3rd. Now the special tests may be over, but there are 4 days of driving to be completed before the finish at the southern tip of the island, Cape Saint-Marie. And the roads ahead are some of the most muddy and meddlesome that the Camel Trophy convoy has yet encountered. There's no let-up in the grueling schedule. Some drivers cope better than others. Hello, Fritz.
Okay, Fritz.
The intrepid German cameraman is obviously better at driving an Arriflex than a Land Rover.
Did you capture that on film?
It's out with the winch and everyone lends a hand to get the show back on the road.
We're gonna push, push. Okay. Some people are taking back here.
Vamos! Espacio, cuidado. Okay.
But Fritz isn't the only one to find the going tough. Expedition judges and trailblazers John Ayres and Graham Fazackerley get themselves a haul to safety. This is the sort of country that epitomises the Camel Trophy. The heavy going that sorts the real men out from the mere men. The terrific drivers from the simply very good. Man and machine in perfect harmony. It took a complete day to get the entire 21-car trophy wagon train along this 300-yard stretch of road. Belgium, 11th overall. Turkey's Kazim Aya and Metin Kap. They may have finished last overall, but there are no losers in the Camel Trophy. On a vote among the drivers, Spaniards Jamie Puig and Victor Montan were awarded the Team Spirit Prize. And in the true spirit of this most big-hearted event, they gave it away. The true winners, they said, were the people of Madagascar, so they presented their trophy to the Minister of Tourism and Commerce, who accepted it on the nation's behalf. The camaraderie and companionship of the world's greatest off-road adventure made up in abundance for the minor hiccups along the way. It's best left to the teams themselves to sum up the unique experience that is the Camel Trophy.
What was the best part of the Camel Trophy for you?
I think the best part was getting through those obstacles, which you wouldn't even dare to look at if you were on your own. And that working together, building bridges, going through swamps, lakes, sometimes forests, opening our own roads, that was great.
I think just traveling through the country and meeting all the nice people. And the people in Madagascar are extremely friendly. They loved it when the Camel Circus came to town.
Best part of the trip, and that's what the Camel Trophy is about as far as I'm concerned. It's team spirit, working together and having a good time, plus getting the vehicles safely from, as in this case, from the north and south of the island.
I think the Camel Trophy is an adventure that you can do it only once a time in a life. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It had been a very good experience, and I think that we remember this for all the life.
And what are you going to tell your friends when you get back home?
Oh, Camel Trophy is wonderful.